Michael was a hard-working man who lived on the edge of a quiet town. His life was simple, steady, and built on years of discipline. As a retired officer, he had seen enough chaos during his service days, and now all he wanted was peace. He had chosen a small but beautiful home away from the noise of the city. The tall oak trees around his property gave him a sense of privacy, and the open fields beyond them made him feel free. Inside his home, everything had its place. He was careful with order, routine, and respect for his surroundings. But the heart of his home was not the furniture or the trophies on his shelf. It was his loyal companion, a trained canine named Rex. Rex was not just a dog. To Michael, Rex was family, a partner, and a reminder of loyalty that people often forgot in their busy lives. Rex had been with him during the last years of his service, trained to sense danger, protect, and guide. When Michael retired, he was given the choice to let Rex stay with the force or take him home. For him, the decision had been easy. He could not imagine life without Rex. They had gone through too much together. Every morning, Michael and Rex would walk around the property, checking the fences and enjoying the fresh air. Neighbors often admired Rex for his strength and discipline. Children would wave at him, and although Rex rarely wagged his tail for strangers, he had a soft spot for young ones. To Michael, Rex was more than security. He was the guardian of his peace. But peace, as Michael often reminded himself, was fragile. Not everyone valued it, and not everyone respected boundaries. Among his neighbors, there was one woman who had a reputation for pushing limits. Her name was Karen. Karen was known for her curiosity that often crossed into intrusion. She lived a few houses away and had a habit of involving herself in other people's matters. Whether it was stepping onto lawns to comment on flowers or peeking over fences to see what people were doing, Karen always acted like she had the right to know. Many avoided her. Some tolerated her, but Michael had kept his distance. He preferred silence to confrontation. Karen, however, found Michael's distance suspicious. She often wondered why he kept to himself, why his home seemed so guarded, and why his canine never left his side. She had spread rumors about hidden treasures in his house, about secret activities, and even about Rex being dangerous. For Michael, these were just words carried by the wind. But for Karen, curiosity was growing into something stronger, an obsession. One Thursday morning, Michael had to drive into the city for an appointment. It was rare for him to be gone for long, but this time he knew he wouldn't be back until evening. As usual, before leaving, he walked around the house, checked the doors, and made sure Rex had enough water and food. Rex seemed alert, his sharp eyes following every move as if sensing that something unusual might happen. Michael patted his head and said, "Stay sharp, boy. I'll be back soon." The engine of his old truck rumbled, and soon the dust from the driveway settled back into silence. For the first time in weeks, the property stood without Michael's presence. Only Rex remained, watchful and calm inside the house. Karen noticed. From her window, she had seen Michael drive away. She pressed her lips tightly, her mind buzzing. "Finally," she whispered to herself, "a chance to see what he's hiding." She had long convinced herself that Michael's house held something unusual. Perhaps it was money, perhaps old documents, or maybe even valuable items from his service days. Her imagination built stories, and those stories fed her need to know. She did not think of it as trespassing. In her mind, she was uncovering truth. By noon, she stood near the edge of Michael's yard, glancing around to make sure no one was watching. The streets were quiet, as most neighbors were either at work or indoors. Karen's heart raced, but her determination was stronger than her fear. Step by step, she crossed into Michael's property. The grass under her shoes whispered with every move, but she ignored the sound. Inside the house, Rex stirred. His ears lifted and his eyes focused. He had been resting near the window, but now his instincts told him that something was wrong. Quietly, he stood, his body stiff, his gaze fixed on the doorway. Karen reached the porch and tried the front door. Locked. She frowned, then moved around the house, checking windows. At the back, she noticed one window slightly open to let in air. Her pulse quickened. She pulled it open carefully and climbed in. The house was silent, too silent. Karen stood still for a moment, her eyes scanning the living room. Everything was neat, almost too neat. The furniture was polished, the books lined perfectly on the shelf, the air filled with the faint scent of wood and soap. For a moment, she hesitated. Something about the house felt different, heavier, like it carried memories and discipline in its very walls. But her curiosity won. She stepped further inside, touching objects as if they would reveal secrets. She opened drawers, glanced at framed photographs of Michael in uniform, and noticed medals displayed on the wall. Her eyes widened. So he really was someone important, she muttered. That was when Rex moved. From the hallway, a low growl echoed, deep and steady. Karen froze. The sound pierced her confidence and replaced it with fear. Slowly, she turned her head. At the end of the hallway stood Rex, his golden-brown coat shining under the light, his sharp eyes fixed on her. He did not bark, not yet. His growl was enough to warn her, "You should not be here." Karen's breath caught. She tried to smile nervously. Good dog, she whispered, but her voice trembled. Rex did not move, but his body remained tense, ready. For the first time, Karen realized her mistake. She was not facing just any dog. This was a trained canine, disciplined to protect his home. She took a step back, her mind racing with excuses she could give if Michael returned. But her heart pounded harder with every second. She had crossed a line, and Rex was the guardian standing between her and escape. The silence stretched, broken only by the sound of Rex's growl. Karen felt small, powerless, and exposed. The house she thought would reveal secrets was now showing her a truth she had ignored. Boundaries exist for a reason, and Rex, with his steady eyes, was there to remind her. Karen froze in the hallway, her hands pressed lightly against her sides, eyes locked on Rex. The dog's growl was low and steady, a sound that seemed to vibrate through the wooden floor beneath her feet. For the first time, she truly felt the weight of her decision to enter Michael's home without permission. The thrill she had felt earlier was gone, replaced with a sharp sting of fear. She had underestimated the bond between Michael and his canine, and now she realized just how wrong she had been. Rex moved a step forward, ears pointed, eyes unwavering. Karen instinctively took a step back, her mind racing to figure out how to get out of the house without provoking the dog. She whispered softly, trying to calm the animal. "I'm sorry. I just wanted to see. I didn't mean any harm." Her words floated in the quiet house, but Rex did not relax. He had been trained to detect not only physical threats, but also the tension and intentions of humans. The realization hit Karen hard. This was not a dog she could charm or trick. This was a protector, a loyal companion who had been with Michael through years of discipline, training, and life lessons. Rex had lived by rules that demanded respect, and Karen had ignored those rules. Slowly, Karen started to back toward the window she had climbed through, thinking she could retrace her steps and escape without causing a scene. But Rex did not move his eyes from her. His presence was commanding, yet he did not attack. It was clear. He was giving her a chance to leave, but only if she chose to respect the boundaries he was guarding. Her thoughts turned frantic. If I just explain myself, maybe he'll understand, she murmured. She took another step toward the window, but her foot accidentally knocked over a small vase on the nearby table. It tumbled to the floor with a loud crash, shattering into pieces. The noise made Karen's heart leap into her throat. Rex's growl deepened and his body stiffened, signaling that he was ready to act if necessary. Karen froze again, panic rising. She realized that the situation had escalated beyond her control. She had thought trespassing would be simple, almost like snooping in a neighbor's yard, but this was different. She was inside someone's home, facing a living reminder that boundaries were real and that trust had to be earned. At that moment, Karen's thoughts flashed to Michael. He was a retired officer, a disciplined man, and undoubtedly prepared for emergencies. She imagined what would happen if Michael returned while she was still inside. Her stomach twisted at the thought. Not only had she trespassed, but she had also placed herself in a position where her actions could have serious consequences. Fear gripped her like a heavy weight, making her movements slow and careful. Rex's posture remained firm, unwavering, yet there was something in his eyes that told Karen she had a chance. He was waiting to see if she would make the right choice. Slowly, she crouched slightly, lowered her hands, and whispered, "I'll go. I promise. I won't touch anything else. I just wanted to see inside your home." Her voice shook, but the sincerity in it seemed to register with Rex. Minutes passed like hours. Karen edged toward the window, careful not to step on the broken vase. Rex followed her every move with precision, keeping a safe distance but making it clear he would intervene if she made any sudden movements. The tension in the room was thick, almost tangible, but gradually Karen began to feel a slight shift. Rex's growl softened, turning into a low rumble that suggested caution rather than immediate danger. Finally, she reached the window. She paused, looking back at the dog who stood tall and composed, his gaze steady and intelligent. Karen felt a strange mix of relief and respect. She realized she had underestimated the bond between Michael and his K9. She had been arrogant and careless, driven by curiosity and a desire to uncover secrets that were none of her business. Now, facing the consequences of her actions, she felt a lesson forming inside her, a lesson in respect, trust, and awareness. Carefully, she climbed out of the window and landed on the grass outside. She took a moment to breathe deeply, her chest rising and falling as she collected herself. Rex remained inside, watching her until she stepped fully away from the house. Only then did he turn and settle back near the window, his watchful eyes scanning the surroundings for any further threats. Karen didn't look back as she walked toward her own home. Her mind was spinning with what had just happened. She had come in search of secrets, but instead, she had found herself facing a reality she had ignored for too long. People had their boundaries for a reason. Some of those boundaries were guarded by love, loyalty, and trust. Michael's home was one such place, and Rex was the guardian of that trust. That evening, Michael returned from the city, unaware of the morning's events. He parked his truck and walked up the driveway, noticing that everything seemed normal. The yard was as neat as he had left it, and Rex greeted him at the door with his usual excitement, wagging his tail and nuzzling Michael's hand. Michael chuckled. "Good boy, Rex. Did you guard the house well today?" Rex barked softly, a single bark that seemed to say, "Yes, I did." Michael smiled, not knowing the depth of Rex's vigilance that day. He entered the house, greeted by the calm and order he valued so much. Everything was in place, nothing appeared disturbed, yet Michael had a feeling that Rex had been alert, waiting, watching. He reached down to pat Rex's head again, unaware of the presence that had briefly threatened his peace. Meanwhile, Karen sat in her living room, reflecting on what had happened. She realized that the day had given her more than fear. It had given her understanding. Trespassing, curiosity, and assumptions had led her to a place where she was confronted not just by a trained dog, but by the consequences of her own actions. She had been lucky that Rex had allowed her to leave unharmed. For the first time, Karen felt the weight of responsibility. She knew she had crossed a line, and she understood that respect was not optional. It had to be earned, and it could not be taken lightly. She promised herself she would never repeat the mistake, not because she feared reprisal, but because she had learned the value of boundaries, trust, and loyalty. Back at Michael's house, Rex lay near the front door, his eyes occasionally scanning the yard. He had sensed danger, acted as a guardian, and ensured the safety of his home and the man he trusted. For Michael, Rex was more than a pet. He was a living reminder that loyalty, vigilance, and care could preserve peace even when threats seemed invisible. That night, Karen reflected on her day's actions, understanding that curiosity could not replace respect. And Michael, unaware of the morning's events, slept peacefully with Rex by his side, the bond between man and dog stronger than ever, ready to face whatever challenges might come in the days ahead. The next morning, Karen woke with a heavy heart. Sleep had been restless, filled with the memory of Rex's eyes and the low warning growl that had followed her through Michael's house. She sat on the edge of her bed, staring at the floor, replaying the morning in her mind. Every step she had taken inside that house, every careless movement, seemed to echo louder now than it had at the time. She realized she had come dangerously close to crossing a line that could have changed everything for her, and not in a way she would ever want. Karen knew she could not simply ignore what had happened. The lesson Rex had taught her was clear: respect boundaries or face the consequences. But she was also aware that Michael, the man whose home she had entered, did not know. He was oblivious to the events, trusting that his house and his life were safe. Karen felt a mix of guilt and relief. She was guilty for trespassing, and relieved that Rex, with his calm yet commanding presence, had prevented any further trouble. Determined to make things right, or at least to acknowledge her mistake, Karen decided she would apologize. But she hesitated, unsure of how to approach Michael. She did not want to provoke anger or suspicion, yet she could not ignore what she had done. Overthinking it, she paced her room, finally settling on a plan. She would visit Michael, calmly and sincerely, and offer her apology. No excuses, no justifications, just honesty. Meanwhile, Michael went about his day as usual. He had no idea that his home had been intruded upon, that his disciplined K9 had been on high alert, or that a neighbor's curiosity had nearly caused trouble. Rex, however, remained unusually alert. His senses were still sharp, his eyes frequently scanning the windows and doors as if expecting an intruder to appear. Michael noticed the dog's behavior but simply attributed it to Rex's trained nature. "You never really relax, do you, boy?" He chuckled, scratching Rex behind the ears. Later that afternoon, as Michael worked on organizing papers in his study, there was a faint knock at the door. Rex's ears perked up immediately. Michael, expecting no visitors, looked toward the door with curiosity. "Who could that be?" he muttered. Rex stood, moving closer to the entrance, his body tense but controlled. Karen stood on the porch, taking a deep breath to steady herself. She had rehearsed her apology in her mind countless times, yet the moment felt heavier than any rehearsal could prepare her for. She knocked again, this time with more determination. Rex let out a low, measured growl from inside the house, alerting Michael that something unusual was happening. Michael opened the door, surprised to see Karen standing there. Her expression was serious, her eyes reflecting the remorse she felt. "Karen," he said, a hint of caution in his voice. Rex positioned himself slightly behind Michael, his eyes fixed on the visitor. Karen nodded, her hands clasped in front of her. "Yes, Michael, I need to apologize. About yesterday. I should not have come into your house. I was curious and I crossed a line. I'm truly sorry." Her voice trembled slightly, but her sincerity was evident. Michael studied her for a moment. He was naturally reserved, but he could sense honesty when it was present. "I appreciate that you're saying this, Karen," he replied. "It's important to understand why boundaries exist, and it's also important to respect them." Rex, sensing the conversation was serious but that Karen posed no immediate threat, relaxed slightly but remained watchful. Karen continued, "I also want to thank Rex. I should have realized how loyal and disciplined he is. He kept me from making a bigger mistake. I promise I won't ever do anything like that again." Michael nodded, acknowledging her words. "Rex is trained to protect. That doesn't mean he's here to scare people unnecessarily, but he does ensure safety. I'm glad you understand that now." A moment of silence hung between them. The air was heavy with unspoken lessons and newfound understanding. Karen felt a weight lift slightly from her shoulders, knowing she had taken the first step toward making amends. Michael, meanwhile, saw an opportunity to foster understanding rather than resentment. He realized that not everyone acted maliciously. Sometimes people simply acted without understanding the consequences. Over the next few days, Karen kept her promise. She stayed respectful, avoided peering into Michael's yard, and made an effort to behave as a considerate neighbor. Michael noticed the change, appreciating the newfound calm in the neighborhood. Rex, too, seemed to sense the reduced tension. While he remained vigilant, the air no longer carried the same sense of intrusion. One afternoon, Michael was sitting on his porch, enjoying the warm sun and gentle breeze. Rex lay at his feet, relaxed but alert. Karen approached from a distance, carrying a small plate of cookies she had baked herself, a simple gesture of apology and goodwill. "I thought this might help," she said softly, holding out the plate. Michael raised an eyebrow, a small smile forming. "That's thoughtful of you, Karen," he replied. "Thank you." Rex's ears twitched, sensing the positive energy in the gesture. He sniffed the air but did not react aggressively. Karen took a seat a few feet away, careful to maintain a respectful distance. They spoke quietly about simple things, the weather, the growth of the trees around the property, and the little routines that made life feel steady. For the first time, Karen felt a connection that was not built on curiosity or intrusion, but on understanding and mutual respect. Through these small conversations, Karen began to see Michael differently. He was disciplined, yes, but also patient, kind, and fair. His home was not just a place of order. It was a reflection of his life philosophy. And Rex was not merely a dog. He was a symbol of loyalty, guidance, and protection. The realization humbled her. She had been brash and impulsive, but now she was learning that true respect was earned through patience, honesty, and consideration. Rex, ever attentive, remained a constant presence. Even as the tension between Karen and Michael eased, the dog's watchful eyes reminded both humans that trust was something maintained, not assumed. Michael occasionally glanced down at Rex, murmuring, "Good boy," keeping us safe even when no one else realizes it. Rex responded with a quiet wag of his tail, acknowledging the praise but never letting his vigilance falter. As the sun began to set, painting the sky in shades of gold and pink, Karen stood to leave. "Thank you for accepting my apology, Michael." "And thank you for Rex," she said sincerely. Michael nodded, appreciating her honesty. "Remember, Karen, it's never too late to do the right thing. Respect and understanding go a long way." Karen smiled faintly, feeling the warmth of a lesson learned. She walked back toward her home, her mind clearer, her heart lighter. The events of the past days had taught her more than she could have imagined. Boundaries existed not to restrict, but to protect. Trust was precious, and loyalty, whether from a dog or a person, was a gift that demanded respect. Inside Michael's house, Rex settled near the window again, his eyes scanning the surroundings. He had done his job, protected his home, his human, and reminded a trespasser of the importance of respect. Michael joined him, sitting quietly, the two of them sharing a peaceful moment that only they could fully understand. That night, Karen reflected on her actions and her growth. She realized that fear had turned into understanding, and misunderstanding had turned into respect. The world felt a little bigger, a little more interconnected, and a little more filled with lessons waiting to be learned. And all of it had started with one day, one curiosity, and one K9 who knew exactly how to protect what mattered most. Days passed, and the small town settled into its usual rhythm. Michael continued his quiet life, tending to his garden, maintaining his home, and spending long hours walking with Rex through the fields surrounding his property. Life was steady, peaceful, and predictable, exactly how he liked it. But there was one small change: Karen. She had begun to visit occasionally, not as a trespasser but as a neighbor seeking conversation and understanding. At first, Michael had been cautious. He did not forget her earlier intrusion, and he knew the importance of vigilance. But he also recognized the sincerity in her actions, the genuine effort to respect boundaries, and the willingness to learn from mistakes. Slowly, he began to allow these visits, keeping Rex close but relaxed. One bright morning, Karen approached Michael's porch, holding a small notebook. "Good morning, Michael," she said cheerfully, her eyes reflecting the warmth of the sun. "I thought I could show you something I've been working on." Michael raised an eyebrow, curious but cautious. "Show me?" he asked, taking a seat on the wooden bench that overlooked the garden. Rex, as always, positioned himself nearby, observing Karen with sharp but calm eyes. Karen opened the notebook and began to explain. "I've been writing down my observations about life, neighbors, and lessons I've learned. Some of them are personal, and some are things I hope could be helpful for others too. I wanted to share it with you because, well, I feel like I've learned a lot from what happened, and I want to do better." Michael listened intently, impressed by her initiative. He had never expected such reflection from someone who had once trespassed into his home. It was a reminder that people could grow, change, and learn from their experiences. Rex sat quietly, his eyes occasionally glancing at Karen, sensing the sincerity in her tone. As Karen read aloud, she spoke of respect, patience, and understanding. She described how she had underestimated boundaries, how fear had taught her caution, and how loyalty and trust were qualities worth valuing in every aspect of life. Michael nodded, appreciating the depth of her insight. "These are important lessons," he said. "It's not easy to admit mistakes, let alone learn from them." Karen smiled softly. "I know. And I couldn't have understood it without seeing how much Rex cared for you and your home. That was a lesson in itself." Michael chuckled. "Rex has always been more than a dog. He's my partner, my guardian, and a reminder of what loyalty really means. I'm glad you've recognized that. It shows growth and understanding." The two of them continued talking, moving from one topic to another, from light-hearted stories to serious reflections. Karen shared stories from her childhood, times she had acted impulsively and moments she had learned valuable lessons. Michael shared stories from his service days, the challenges he faced, and how discipline had shaped his life. Through this exchange, a sense of mutual respect began to build. Rex, ever observant, seemed to approve of the interaction. He lay down near Michael's feet, relaxed but alert, his presence reminding both humans of the importance of mindfulness and responsibility. Karen occasionally reached down to pat him gently, careful not to overstep. Each touch was a small gesture of trust, and Rex responded with calm acceptance, signaling that he recognized her sincerity. Over time, these visits became more frequent. Karen and Michael found themselves sharing not just lessons but small joys as well. They discussed the beauty of the changing seasons, the subtle sounds of nature, and the small victories that life often offered. Karen began to see Michael not just as a neighbor or a homeowner, but as a mentor, a person who exemplified the values she was striving to embrace. One afternoon, a small challenge arose. A young child from the neighborhood had wandered near Michael's property, drawn by the sight of Rex in the open fields. Michael noticed the child before any harm could occur, but Rex's alert stance immediately signaled the potential danger. Karen, who had accompanied Michael on a casual walk that day, observed the situation with keen attention. "Rex is amazing," she whispered. "He's not just strong, he's aware of everything." Michael nodded. "That's the key. He protects, but he also senses what's happening around him. It's about awareness, not just strength." The child's parents arrived shortly after, grateful for Michael and Rex's attentiveness. Karen realized in that moment how much trust and responsibility mattered. It wasn't just about protecting property. It was about caring for the community, understanding the importance of vigilance and acting responsibly. She felt a deeper respect for Michael and Rex than ever before. As the sun began to set, painting the sky in warm hues, Michael and Karen walked back toward his house. The air was filled with quiet reflections, the kind that settled deep in the heart. Karen felt a sense of peace she had not experienced before. She understood that true respect was earned, trust was delicate, and loyalty could shape lives in profound ways. Back at the porch, Michael sat down with Rex by his side. Karen stood a few feet away, feeling a mix of gratitude and humility. "Thank you for today," she said softly. "I learned more in a few hours than I ever expected." Michael smiled. "You're learning the right lessons, Karen. Life often teaches us through experiences we'd rather avoid. The important thing is to pay attention and grow." Rex wagged his tail slightly, a quiet acknowledgement that the day had passed peacefully, and that his guardianship had once again ensured safety and understanding. Karen left that evening with a new perspective. Trespassing, fear, and mistakes had transformed into respect, learning, and a desire to act responsibly. She had begun a journey not just toward understanding Michael and Rex, but toward understanding herself, her impulses, her curiosity, and her need to respect others' boundaries. In the days that followed, Karen continued to practice these lessons. She noticed the small things in her neighborhood, how people respected each other's space, how communities thrived on mutual trust, and how even a single act of care could strengthen bonds. She occasionally spoke with Michael, sharing reflections and learning moments, each conversation deepening her understanding. Through it all, Rex remained a steady presence. He was the silent teacher, the vigilant guardian, and the bridge between Michael and Karen's growing understanding. His loyalty had prevented harm, his awareness had taught respect, and his calm demeanor had allowed for growth. Karen often thought of him not just as a dog, but as a symbol of the values she was striving to live by: vigilance, loyalty, and the quiet power of protection. As Part 4 closes, the story has shifted from tension and fear to understanding, reflection, and growth. Karen has transformed her approach, Michael has extended patience and guidance, and Rex has continued to embody the principles of loyalty and protection. The stage is now set for new experiences, challenges, surprises, and lessons that will further test trust, respect, and the bond between humans and their loyal companions. A week later, the town experienced an unusual heat wave. The streets were quiet, the sun beating down relentlessly on the rooftops, and the air seemed heavy with stillness. Michael spent the morning tending to his garden, carefully watering the plants and trimming the edges of the lawn. Rex was by his side as always, moving with quiet precision, ensuring that no small disturbances went unnoticed. Karen, noticing the sweltering heat, decided to check on Michael and Rex. She carried a pitcher of iced lemonade, hoping to offer a small gesture of care. She walked carefully along the gravel path to Michael's house, aware of her position as a guest in his life, not an intruder. When she arrived, She called out softly, "Michael, are you okay? It's very hot today." Michael looked up from the flowers he was tending. "Thanks, Karen, I'm fine, but I appreciate you checking. It's important to stay hydrated in this heat." Rex wagged his tail slightly, recognizing Karen but keeping an alert posture, as if noting every movement she made. Karen placed the pitcher on the porch table. "I thought this might help," she said. "It's not much, but at least it's something." Michael smiled warmly. "It's thoughtful. Thank you." For a few moments they sat together on the porch, drinking lemonade and talking about simple things, the weather, the plants, and the small joys that made life comfortable. It was a peaceful moment, one of those rare times when silence could be shared without discomfort. Rex lay near Michael's feet, occasionally glancing at Karen, his body relaxed but his senses still attentive. Suddenly, a faint noise reached them from the nearby field. It was subtle at first, just a rustling among the dry grass, but Rex immediately lifted his head, ears pricked forward. Michael noticed the change in the dog's posture. "What is it, boy?" he asked quietly. Rex stood, moving slightly toward the edge of the property, growling low but steady. Karen tensed, unsure what the dog had sensed. Michael stood as well, his instincts alert. "Stay here, Karen," he said calmly, "and keep Rex in view." Karen nodded, watching as Michael walked toward the field. Rex close at his heels. The rustling grew louder, revealing a small child who had wandered from a nearby home. The child seemed lost, anxious, and frightened, unaware of how far he had strayed. Rex's presence immediately calmed the situation, his growl softening as he positioned himself between Michael and the child, signaling caution but not aggression. Karen felt her heart lighten, realizing that this was not a dangerous intrusion, but an opportunity to witness the value of vigilance and care. "Rex is amazing," she whispered. "He can sense danger and handle it without causing panic." Michael smiled as he guided the child safely toward the porch. "That's why he's important," he said. "Protection isn't just about defense, it's about awareness, patience, and guiding others safely." Karen knelt down to speak with the child, offering gentle reassurance. "It's okay," she said softly. "You're safe now. Michael and Rex are here to help." The child smiled faintly, his fear slowly melting away under the calm authority of the dog and the kindness of both adults. After ensuring the child was returned to his family, Michael turned to Karen. "Did you see how Rex handled that?" he asked. "He didn't panic. He didn't act aggressively. He assessed the situation and acted responsibly. That's what makes him remarkable." Karen nodded, deeply impressed. "I see now that loyalty and training go beyond just protection. It's about understanding, awareness, and knowing how to respond appropriately." As the afternoon heat began to wane, Karen stayed a little longer, reflecting on the events of the day. She realized that she had witnessed a lesson in trust, responsibility, and vigilance, one that went beyond her previous understanding of boundaries and respect. Rex had not just prevented harm, he had guided everyone safely, showing that protection could be gentle, thoughtful, and precise. Michael, noticing her thoughtful expression, said, "Karen, it's one thing to learn about respect and boundaries from mistakes. It's another to see them applied in real life. Today you saw the difference between theory and practice." Karen smiled, feeling a sense of clarity she had not experienced before. "Yes, I understand it better now," she admitted. "It's not just about avoiding mistakes, it's about actively caring for others and being aware of the world around you." Rex lay down again, his vigilance still present, but his body relaxed. He had done his job, ensuring that everyone was safe and that lessons were learned without harm. Michael looked at the dog and said quietly, "Good boy. Rex, you handled it perfectly." Rex wagged his tail slightly, content with the acknowledgement but always ready for the next challenge. As the sun set, Karen prepared to leave. She felt a mix of gratitude and humility, realizing that every encounter with Michael and Rex had shaped her understanding of responsibility and trust. "Thank you for letting me be here today," she said softly. "I've learned so much from watching how you handle situations." Michael nodded, appreciating her sincerity. "You're learning the right lessons, Karen. Awareness, care, and respect are not just words, they are actions that make life safer and better for everyone." Karen walked back toward her home, the evening sky glowing with soft colors. The events of the day had given her a new perspective on life, responsibility, and trust. She realized that loyalty, vigilance, and care were qualities that could transform relationships and communities, and she felt inspired to carry these lessons into her own life. Back at his porch, Michael and Rex shared a quiet moment watching the sunset. Rex's eyes scanned the surroundings, alert yet calm, a perfect balance of vigilance and patience. Michael reached down to pat his loyal companion. "Good work today, Rex," he said. "You've taught more than any words could." Rex leaned into the touch, acknowledging the praise but always ready for what tomorrow might bring. Michael knew that life would continue to bring challenges, but with Rex by his side, he felt prepared for whatever might come. That night, Karen reflected on her journey from curiosity and intrusion to understanding and respect. She realized that every mistake had been an opportunity to learn, every lesson a chance to grow. She had begun to understand the true meaning of trust, loyalty, and vigilance, qualities embodied not just by Michael, but by the remarkable K9 who protected and guided them both. The chapter of tension and fear had ended. In its place was a story of learning, growth, and the quiet strength of loyalty. And as the stars appeared in the night sky, Karen felt a sense of peace, knowing that respect, awareness, and care were the foundations of the relationship she wanted to nurture moving forward. The next morning, the town awoke to the soft chirping of birds and the golden light of sunrise spilling across the streets. Michael had already been up for some time, tending to the small chores around his house. Rex followed closely, moving with quiet purpose, his senses alert as always. The calmness of the morning contrasted with the events of past weeks, yet Michael knew that peace required vigilance. Karen, inspired by the lessons she had learned, decided to visit Michael one last time that week. She wanted to share her reflections and express gratitude not only for his guidance, but also for the lessons Rex had taught her. She walked along the familiar path to Michael's home, carrying a small basket of fresh fruit from her garden as a token of appreciation. When she arrived, Michael was already on the porch, reading a book. Rex sat beside him, eyes bright and attentive. As Karen approached, Rex gave a soft bark of recognition, a gesture of approval for the person who had learned to respect boundaries. Michael smiled as he saw her. "Good morning, Karen. What brings you here today?" Karen returned the smile, feeling a mixture of warmth and humility. "I just wanted to say thank you, Michael, for your patience, your guidance, and for allowing me to learn from my mistakes. And of course for Rex. I've realized how much wisdom and loyalty he carries, not just strength but understanding." Michael nodded, appreciating her words. Rex teaches many lessons, often without us realizing it. Loyalty, awareness, patience, and calmness under pressure. These are qualities that serve in life as well as in protection. Rex tilted his head slightly, as if acknowledging the praise in his own way. Karen knelt down and patted his head gently, careful to respect his space. "You've done more than protect, Rex. You've taught too," she whispered softly. Rex wagged his tail slightly, content with her words, yet always alert, always vigilant. The morning passed with quiet conversation. Karen shared her reflections on life, on mistakes, and on the importance of responsibility. She spoke about how her curiosity had once led her to trespass but had now inspired her to observe, respect, and act thoughtfully. Michael listened with interest, offering gentle guidance when needed and affirming the growth he could see in her words and actions. By midday, the sun rose higher, warming the porch and the surrounding yard. Karen and Michael decided to take a short walk through the fields nearby. Rex led the way, his movements calm but precise, scanning the surroundings and ensuring their safety. As they walked, Karen felt a deep sense of gratitude for the lessons embedded in this journey. "I never thought a simple dog could teach so much," she said, glancing at Rex. "I thought loyalty was just a word. But seeing how he acts, how he protects without fear or anger, it's incredible." Michael smiled. "It's the way he approaches life. Calm, disciplined, aware. That's why he's more than a companion. He's a guide. And you've learned to see that now, which shows growth." They reached a small clearing surrounded by oak trees, the sunlight filtering through the leaves in soft patterns on the ground. It was a perfect moment of reflection, a quiet pause in life's usual rhythm. Karen felt a sense of peace she had not known before. She had come a long way from the person who once trespassed out of curiosity. Now she understood responsibility, awareness, and the importance of respecting others. Michael and Karen sat on a fallen log, watching Rex patrol the edges of the clearing. The dog moved with a silent confidence, aware of every movement and sound, ready to protect but without aggression. Karen felt inspired by the balance he maintained, strength tempered with calm, vigilance paired with understanding. "I think I finally understand," she said softly. "It's not about fear or punishment. It's about awareness, respect, and the choices we make every day. Trespassing, curiosity, or carelessness, they all teach lessons if we pay attention. But loyalty and vigilance, those are choices we can carry in every action we take." Michael nodded. "Exactly. Life often teaches through experiences, both good and bad. What matters is how we respond and what we take away from them. Rex and I have faced challenges, but we've also grown. You've learned that too." As the afternoon approached, they returned to Michael's home. Karen helped place some of the fresh fruit in the kitchen, and Michael offered her a cup of tea. They sat together, enjoying the simple pleasure of calm conversation, sharing stories of their past and hopes for the future. The bond between them had grown not from drama or fear, but from understanding, trust, and shared respect. Rex lay nearby, his ears twitching occasionally as he listened to the conversation, a silent reminder that vigilance and loyalty were constant companions. Karen reached down to scratch behind his ears, smiling softly. "You've changed my life, Rex," she whispered. The dog's eyes met hers for a brief moment, intelligent and calm, as if acknowledging her words. As the day drew to a close, Karen stood to leave. "Thank you for everything today and for all the lessons I've learned," she said sincerely. Michael smiled warmly. "Keep practicing what you've learned, Karen. Awareness, respect, and loyalty, those will guide you well in life." Rex gave a small bark, a final acknowledgement of the day's calm and success. Karen waved goodbye and walked down the path to her home. Her heart lighter, her mind clearer, and her perspective changed. She knew that her actions, choices, and the lessons she had learned would stay with her for the rest of her life. That evening, Michael reflected on the weeks that had passed. From the initial tension of Karen's trespass to her growth and understanding, he realized how much patience and guidance could transform situations. Rex lay at his feet, alert but relaxed, his presence a constant reassurance. Michael patted him gently. "We've done well, boy," he said. "Not just in guarding the home, but in teaching lessons that go beyond the surface. You've done more than protect, you've guided." Rex wagged his tail lightly, a silent acknowledgement that his job had always been more than physical protection. It was about fostering understanding, teaching respect, and shaping the lives around him through vigilance and calm authority. As the stars appeared in the night sky, Karen sat by her window reflecting on her journey. She thought about the mistakes she had made, the lessons she had learned, and the people and animals who had guided her toward understanding. She realized that respect, trust, and loyalty were not abstract ideas, they were actions, daily choices, and commitments that shaped life in meaningful ways. In the days that followed, Karen and Michael's relationship continued to grow. Based on mutual respect and understanding, she became more aware of her actions, more considerate of others, and more mindful of the lessons life offered in every situation. Michael continued his routines with Rex, knowing that the bond between them had not only protected his home, but also nurtured growth in someone who had once been a stranger. Through it all, Rex remained the quiet hero, the guardian whose loyalty and vigilance had transformed a potentially tense situation into a story of learning and growth. His presence was a reminder that protection could be gentle, understanding could be powerful, and respect was a gift earned through thoughtful action. And so, the story concluded, not with fear or anger, but with understanding, growth, and the quiet strength of loyalty. Karen had learned her lessons, Michael had upheld his values, and Rex had shown that true guardianship was about more than watching. It was about guiding, teaching, and shaping the world with calm, steady wisdom. As the night deepened, Michael and Rex sat together on the porch, the gentle night breeze rustling the leaves. Karen's home glowed softly in the distance, a symbol of growth, reflection, and respect earned through experience. The bonds of trust, understanding, and loyalty had been strengthened, leaving all three with a quiet but profound sense of peace. A peace that would endure for years to come.